Good day. Today is Sunday, 3rd of August 2025, and I wish you a good week that is upcoming today. So, today is the final sort of a blast from the webinar. I'll upload the webinar in full so you can watch it without any interruptions. Starting tomorrow, I'll do one more video from Professor because Professor has recorded something while I was doing the webinar and has asked me to upload it. So this will be the first video to come out. And after that, we'll do either the topic for Tuesday, that will be the mail shot, or it will be the overview of the coach account. Maybe it will be the same, like one and the same. We'll see. I hope you enjoyed the webinar in full. Stay tuned and keep in touch.
So, shall we start? So, anyway, I think we are live now. So, good evening to all the dignitaries, participants, my colleagues, my dear colleagues, dear students, and friends. It's an honor and privilege for me today to welcome you all to this international webinar on trait emotional intelligence and resilience at the time of COVID-19. On behalf of management, on the organizing committee, and the entire team of Basaveshwar Engineering College, and on behalf of London Psychometric Lab, UCL, it gives me a distinct pleasure to heartily offer a warm welcome to the speaker. Firstly, I'd like to welcome the speaker of today's webinar, Dr. K.B. Petrites, Professor of Psychology and Psychometrics at University College London, and the president of today's webinar, Dr. S.S. Ingigneri, who is the principal of Basaveshwar Engineering College Autonomous, Bagalkot. I welcome all the participants from different countries to this unique webinar. I also welcome our faculty colleagues, students, and all other people who are directly and indirectly connected to this webinar. And now, I'll also take this opportunity to introduce the resource person or the speaker for today's webinar, that is Dr. K.B. Petrites. Konstantin V. Petrites. He's a professor of psychology and psychometrics at University College London, UK. He's the founding director of London Psychometric Laboratory, a developer of psychobiomy, a major psychophysiological system showing, among other insights, how the mind can be trained, directed to produce desired effects both in psychological as well as in physical domains. Now, Petrites has also developed a very well-known theory of trait emotional intelligence. Now, half of the audience, almost all audience are aware of trait emotional intelligence, and it is developed by a British psychologist, none other than Dr. K.B. Petrites, and we are going to hear from himself today. And the family of trait emotional intelligence questionnaires are extensively used commercially in industries and in research settings, in academic settings all around the world. Now, he was born in Thessaloniki, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it right, in Greece in 1972. He holds a bachelor degree in business administration in summa cum laude honors of Pace University, New York, USA. In diploma in psychology from University of Nottingham, UK. MSc in psychological research methods, specialized in psychometrics and behavioral statistics from the University of Exeter, UK, and taught by first ever professor in psychometric in the UK by Professor Paul Klein. Now co-authored 2 peer-reviewed papers with the legendary 20th century psychologist Hans J. Asensik. I'm sure I'm spelling it right. And PhD, he has secured his PhD and specialized in individual differences, psychometrics, and behavioral statistics from University College London. First ever professor at Psychometrics at University College London, the birthplace of Psychometrics, which has published extensively, and I don't have to tell about his publications, and it is well known throughout the world, leading peer-reviewed journals in many different fields, and lectures internationally in psychobionomy, trait emotional intelligence, and philosophy of mind. And I personally would like to say Dr. Treats does not need any formal introduction, because he's already an international figure and a researcher of the international repute. And he's always, he's also, if you type emotional intelligence on Wikipedia or anywhere, his name is taken along with Mayer and Peter Salovey and Goldman and Baron. So we are very privileged to have him here today. So that we have the tribes with us. And I don't want to say much about the webinar, which is already displayed in the brochure. This webinar has been jointly organized by Basaveshwar College, Bagalkot, India, MBA department, in association with London Psychometric Laboratory, UCL, UK. Now, why this webinar? Because resilience is the important aspect what we are looking at when there is times of COVID, and how to have resilience and how to bounce back from such difficult situations. And that's what we're going to know from Dr. Price today. And one more thing I'd like to highlight here, that we have participants from 41 different nations. And I'll name some of them, that is Argentina, Australia, USA, Portugal, South Africa, Austria, Greece, Italy, Malaysia, Russia, Spain, Switzerland, Netherlands, UK, of course, which is also the host country, India, of course, which is also host country, Greece, Hong Kong, Czech Republic, Denmark, and the list goes on. And I don't think I need to do this thing. So I welcome all the participants from all different countries. And I'd like to say one more thing, that we have a lot of participants, 30% of the participants coming from the industry. I welcome all of them, and our faculty friends and students who are attending this. So that was it. So now, let me take this opportunity to formally to ask our beloved principal, who is the president of this function, Dr. S.S. Engineering, to address the gathering, please.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. First of all, on behalf of the management of BVV Sangha and my own self and all the entire BC fraternity, take this opportunity to welcome Dr. K.V. Petrites, University College London, who has readily accepted to be the key speaker for this particular international webinar. And before I forget, I also would like to congratulate Dr. Anji for having organized this for the benefit of the people across the globe. Just, I would like to share a few thoughts of mine and brief little about our college, as it is for the benefit of the participants across the globe. I am also very happy to note that we have almost from 41 plus countries who are participating in this webinar. So at least to give a little brief about us, so that we come to know better each other, and in the days we can also be associated. Basaveshwar Engineering College, Bagalkot, was established in the year 1963, and it has a history of around 57 years. And we are one of the constituent colleges of a trust called BVV Sangha, Basaveshwara Veerashaiva Vidyavardhaka Sangha, headed by Chairman Dr. Veeranna Charantimat. And he also happens to be MLA of the Bagalkot constituency, where the college has been located. He has been our chairman for the last 30 years, and under his leadership, the technical education as well as in the other parts, in all domains of medical sciences and the regular arts, science and commerce, this part of the society has been benefited to a very larger extent. So we have almost around 6,000 faculty who are working with almost 50,000 students who have been benefited in the field of education. I would rather say in a population of around 1.5 lakhs, the 50% of population is being constituted by the students of BVV Sangha at Bagalkot. So it has been an educational hub serving the society at a large in the northern part of Karnataka. Basaveshwar Engineering College, Bagalkot, I am very happy to lead this institution, being an alumni of Basaveshwar Engineering College, Bagalkot, and ever since 1985, I have been serving as a faculty, and I have this rare opportunity of leading from the front as a principal since February 1st, 2020. So I am very proud to be an alumni of this college and also to lead as a principal of this particular prestigious institution. Owing to this COVID, there are a lot of challenges that have been thrown open, where there was not much of preparedness amongst the educational institutions, and where we were also, most of the institutions across the globe were also not prepared for the online challenges thrown open by this COVID. But nevertheless, 200 plus countries have been facing this particular problem and fighting across the COVID disease to contain the loss of life. So as we understand, the spread of this disease has caused a lot of damage to the mankind, and as I understand, around 15.4 million population has been affected by this COVID, and where there have been almost around 0.63 million deaths that have taken place across the globe. And India alone, we have around 1.24 million who have been affected, and 0.29 million population where the people have lost their life owing to this. So these online webinars, the workshops and seminars have been now the part of all of us in the field of education, and this topic, what Dr. K.V. Petrites is delivering today through this webinar, that is the trait emotional intelligence and the resilience at the time of COVID-19, has been a very apt topic, because what do I also understand from the learned people is that the most of the loss of lives that has taken place because of this disease is by the fear that it has induced across the people. So taking that into consideration, so this topic is very apt at this particular moment. I am very sure the people who are participating in this webinar will definitely be benefited and will also bring an awareness to the people in and around them, so that this can be contained to a larger extent. Now, the credentials of Basaveshwar Engineering College, Bagalkot, all the 10 departments, we have 10 departments, undergraduate programs, and we have 7 postgraduate programs, and 8 departments have been recognized as the research centers. We have been accredited by the standard accreditation bodies at national level. One is the National Board of Accreditation, New Delhi, where our all 10 programs have been accredited. And another one is the University Grants Commission, where it's one of the governing bodies at the national level. So we also have the NAC accreditation for the college as a whole from UGC. Then we also take the credit or have the benefit of having the accreditation from the UK, that is QS iGauge. So our institution is also been accredited by QS iGauge in the last year. And recently, we also had the privilege of acquiring the e-lead certification for our preparedness to deliver the online mode of teaching learning processes to our students. And I'm very happy to share on this particular occasion that we stand at the national level in India, where we have around 3,500 engineering colleges, and we stand in the top 200. So if we leave apart the institutes of higher predominance, that is namely the IITs and NITs, I would rather say will be in the top 100 colleges giving the best of the technical education in India. So it's a matter of pride for all of us, and I thank the organizers, that is Dr. Hanji, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this particular webinar, and also to be associated with Dr. K.V. Petrites. And we always look forward for the associations with the people of national and international eminence, and hope so we'll have an opportunity that KV Petrites will visit our institution, and the faculty and the students of this area also will be benefited. Sir, we are very happy to have you on this particular day, and I thank wholeheartedly on behalf of management and myself and the entire BEC fraternity. Wholeheartedly thank you once again for accepting our invitation. Hope all the participants will be benefited, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay. So with the permission of Dr. KV Petrites, I would rather take leave because of my other engagements. I hope you'll kindly permit me, sir.
Absolutely. So really, I'm assuming you can all see my slides now, perhaps in addition to myself, but I'm sharing my slides, and I don't know if these are visible now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, good. So let me then formally open by thanking Basaveshwar College, the principal, the coordinators, and specifically Dr. Sanjay Hanji for organizing this complex event, particularly from a technological perspective, and giving me the opportunity to connect with you all. So I particularly like the college's logo here, and you can see the strapline "Work is Workship." And you might also have heard the expression "work is worship." And I liked it because it got me thinking, why do we work? Or what should we work for? And my answer to this question is that we should work for excellence. We shouldn't work for money or for success or for fame, but we should work for excellence. And when we work for excellence, there's one major advantage, and that is that we don't really get attached to the outcome of our work. And the reason we don't get attached is because we work for excellence. We always try to do the best under the particular circumstances we find ourselves in. So whether you're working on a small task or seemingly small task, or whether you're working on a seemingly big project, you always work for the same outcome, which is excellence. It's also true, of course, that when you work for excellence, all these other things like money and success and fame tend to follow. But they follow as side effects, and in a manner that's effortless, and it is uncomplicated, it's untaxing. Anyway, I am very pleased that this launch today, which is the launch of my world teaching mission, is happening under the auspices of an Indian university, which complements academic knowledge with wisdom. I have to say that it also feels a little bit strange for me because I have always gone to India in order to learn, never in order to teach. Of course, I've had several invitations to teach in India, but out of my deep respect for the Indian lore, which I think is simply unparalleled in this world, I never really went to teach there, but I've gone, of course, and very frequently in order to learn. So it feels a little bit strange today, but then again, I'm not really in India. I'm here in my home in central London, but still I can feel the connection. So starting now, I'd like to say a few things about the structure of the webinar today. And of course, I have to say that we have major potential for running late today. And I hope that you have time and you're not particularly busy. And even if you are, I promise that it's going to be worth it. I'm going to make it worth it for you if you can stick around until the end. There's two sections to the webinar. The first one is on trait TI, an introduction to the theory of trait emotional intelligence, and also say a few things about the reach of the theory and the research program. And that I felt, this is pretty short, but I felt it was necessary because these days we are really drowning in webinars and training programs, and everyone with a webcam is uploading content. So I thought it was important to give you a small glimpse of some of the lab's achievements in order to help you put this webinar into context. And I will focus specifically and exclusively on scientific research contributions. We have very strong and constantly increasing commercial usage all around the world. Some of the world's biggest companies are using the lab's instruments and outputs, but I really don't want to start dropping names today. and turn this into some sort of commercial advertisement. So I'd like to focus today strictly on the scientific impact. The second and main part of the webinar will really focus on trade TI and specifically its relationship with resilience at the time of COVID-19, the current crisis. So let me start by saying a few things about what is trade TI. Well, trade TI is a theory that integrates personality traits, emotions, and intelligence, broadly defined. Hence, trait emotional intelligence. Trait TI is a theory that helps you connect to the tremendous power and possibilities that are latent and waiting to be discovered in your conscious as well as subconscious part of your mind. So Trait TI helps you connect to the capabilities, the power that's already latent in you, the powers that's already latent in your emotional world, conscious as well as subconscious, as I mentioned before. Trait TI now is an established field in psychology, and there are hundreds of peer-reviewed journal publications. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of information now from the Web of Science, Thomson Reuters here. You can see in this slide on the left how, I don't know if you can also see my cursor, I suspect you can. These are the first publications here in year 2000, 2001, 2002, coming out of my PhD almost 20 years ago. And all the way up now, you can go to 2019, where there were almost 100 research papers in peer-reviewed journals on trait emotional intelligence theory. So there are almost 700 records right now on trait TI and thousands of citations to the theory and the main ideas and constructs underpinning it. And where does all this research come from? This is quite interesting to note. Well, it comes from many different fields and many different areas, which is those of you who are working in science, in academic science today will know that it is an era of over-specialization, I would say. We are very specific about what we study, and we rarely cross borders. But you will see here that trait emotional intelligence features in fields and domains that are very interdisciplinary and the cross-discipline boundaries. You see, most of the activity, of course, publications are in psychology, social psychology, including organizational and occupational psychology, educational psychology, clinical psychology, psychiatry, but then we also cross into areas like straightforward mainstream management, neuroscience, linguistics, behavioral genetics, mainline business publications, behavioral sciences, sports science, obstetrics and gynecology, medicine, family studies. So it's a theory that really breaks down barriers, which is really very rare, as I said, in this day and age of academic and scientific over-specialization. Many of you might be familiar with the Trait Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire, the TQ. It is used globally in commercial settings and, of course, in scientific and research settings. And I sort of had the idea of maybe showing you a brief partial bibliography underpinning the instrument, just to see the hundreds and hundreds of scientific studies that are conducted around the world using the instrument. But I don't want to risk clicking on this today. I don't want to risk any technological fiascos, particularly as I am home alone and nobody's here to help me. So if you want to see a little bit about the scientific studies, the scientific bibliography of the TQ, if you go to our websites and navigate yourself, you'll find a partial bibliography. And you literally see hundreds and hundreds of studies conducted with the instrument. And as I said, commercial usage is also expanding very quickly, and some of the world's small, medium, and very large companies and organizations are using the instrument and associated outputs. So that's a brief introduction to some of the ideas, research outputs, and reach of the scientific program, which of course underpins this webinar today. And with that now, we can move into a specific aspect of trait emotional intelligence that has come into sharp focus over the past few months, and that is resilience. So let's say a few things about resilience from the perspective of the Trait Emotional Intelligence Research Program. So, we could say that resilience is the quality that allows us to adapt in the face of hardship, in the face of adversity. Now, the first thing that I would like to note about resilience, the first thing that strikes me at least, is that resilience is amoral. Now, it does not entail a sense of morality. So, for example, you can be a very resilient criminal or a very resilient offender. Or you can be very resilient in the mismanagement of your life. And many of us know people who are extremely resilient in terms of digging a deeper and deeper hole to get themselves in their lives. They're very resilient in the mismanagement of their life. So there is a distinction, let's say, between resilience and morality. Yeah. And I think, from my perspective, that moral virtues ought to take priority over resilience. And perhaps we could make a distinction between adaptive and maladaptive resilience. Resilience that is not good for us, in other words. That's what maladaptive means. A resilience that is bad for us. As I said, if you're a resilient criminal or you're very resilient in doing the wrong thing in life, that's not going to be to your advantage, ultimately. Adaptive resilience emerges with the attainment of self-knowledge. So, in other words, adaptive resilience emanates naturally in the self-realized individual. It's not a question of, how do I attain resilience? What do I need to do for it? It just simply flows along with the attainment of self-knowledge. Resilience, of course, has an emotional basis. And as a field of scientific research, it can be fully accommodated within the more general framework of trait emotional intelligence. Now, many of these notions that become popular from time to time, like resilience, like the dark side of personality or dark personality traits that you might have heard about, like emotion regulation, can be fully and entirely accommodated within the trait emotional intelligence model, because the trait EI model is more general than these individual constructs and notions. Now, obviously, to be resilient, you need to be able to handle negative emotions. There's no question about that. But trait EI is about more than handling negative emotions and trying to understand what happened. It is about shaping what happens next. Too often, resilience has connotations of survival. The trait EI is about growing at the time of crisis. It's not about merely adapting or withstanding, standing your ground. It is about growing and expanding. With all the external uncertainty that we are currently facing, is it possible for us to be inwardly certain? Not that we will come through, not that we will pull through, not that we will stand our ground, but that we will actually thrive. And that is going beyond resilience. That is going beyond resilience and understanding that life is always in a state of flux, which is the idea of the Buddhist idea of impermanence. Life is always in a state of change. Now, one caveat that follows from this, which is not very often highlighted in Buddhist circles, is that because life is always in a state of flux, because life is always in a state of change, unless you are explicitly growing, then you are explicitly receding. There is no staying still in life or holding your ground, as some interpretations of resilience might imply. You might have come across these mainline interpretations of resilience that say, you got to be there, you got to be strong, hold your ground. There's no holding your ground. Either you will be growing or you will be receding. And growth and recession are first and foremost psychological qualities. Inner growth eventually manifests as improving life conditions, while inner decrease eventually manifests as reduced life conditions. Now, both of these, of course, start within, psychologically. So you may appear to be standing your ground externally, but inwardly, you could be becoming immense, or you could be collapsing. But the point to understand here is that life is always changing. So unless you're growing, then you are receding. Now, the fact of impermanence also means that emotional attachment is a major contributor to non-resilience. Yeah. So when we are emotionally attached to people, places, circumstances, that makes us highly non-resilient. If you are emotionally attached to the status quo, for example, if you're attached to how things are, along with the presumption that they will remain like that, then you must understand that you are severely non-resilient. In turn, of course, non-resilience becomes a source of negative emotions, and these can interact with patterns of negative thinking, and that eventually creates conditions like anxiety and depression that are so prevalent in society today. So that brings us now to the COVID part of the presentation. And while I'm no medical expert in this disease, I have leading expertise in dealing with its psychological consequences. And I can certainly tell you that many people are interpreting this ordeal as fierce grace and see in it opportunities for growth. So there's no doubt in my mind that many will emerge from this much stronger than before, both psychologically and externally in the world. They will take advantage of this crisis in order to become stronger, in order to strengthen themselves, in order to become more secure, more effective, psychologically and in terms of their behavior. Now, irrespective of its origins and how quickly it will be resolved, which is still very unclear, COVID-19 or the responses to COVID-19, and I'm not really exploring today if the cure is worse than the disease, like many have argued, but irrespective of origins and how quickly it will be resolved, this crisis has shaken up the world in the space of a few short months. And you can see here some big changes in the way in which we greet ourselves, with the Eastern alternative, of course, being far more graceful, I think, compared to some of the novelties that are being proposed over here in the West, as is so often the case. And there have been many social as well as personal impacts that we are witnessing across the world. You know, social impacts are, for example, I've listed them in this slide, like office-based work is very severely affected. There is extensive evidence, incidents, examples of ageism in our society. There's social segregation, the Black Lives Matter movement that was born in the midst of this crisis. There's also been personal impacts, like, for example, the psychological shock of lockdown, which is particularly pronounced in Western liberal democracies, because all of a sudden now people in these democracies are finding out that the state has the ability to shut down your business, separate you from your relatives, lock you inside your home, abolish your right to religious worship and more. So that's been a particular shock for people in Western liberal democracies. And of course, there are changes in relationships and relationship breakdowns, changes of risk perception, and so on and so forth. Now, the important thing that I would like to note from the perspective of this particular webinar is that COVID is not the cause of all these effects. It is the catalyst. So take, for example, relationship breakdowns, which I mentioned as a possible personal impact of this crisis. Now, there is no way that a solid relationship will break down because of COVID. This is simply not possible. However, relationships that are psychologically illegitimate, of which there are many, can suffer greatly from this disruption. And the same for businesses. A business that has become complacent, a business that has become undiversified, undirected, poorly led, will be exposed to severe shocks and may never recover. But COVID here is the catalyst for this. It is not the cause of the failure. Unfortunately, it's a very convenient scapegoat, and a lot of people who will be failing during this crisis will be turning to COVID and blaming it all on the disease, when in fact the causes of failure, the causes of the problems are far, far deeper. Moving into the post-COVID future, there's many possible negative, untoward social developments that we could see in a post-COVID future, post-crisis future. We could see, and to some extent we're already experiencing, restrictions on international travel, electronic digital surveillance, the denigration of the human being as some kind of biohazard, and many others may follow depending on how the whole situation develops. The important thing, again, that I would like to note for our purposes here is that the fundamental laws and facts of life will not be affected by this crisis. The perennial laws under which life unfolds will not be in the least affected by this turmoil. Life is not random. It unfolds according to certain laws and principles, and it is incumbent on us to discover and apply these laws in our life. Discovering these laws under which life operates is not simply a possibility, it is a responsibility for us. So we need to withdraw our attention, and attention, I should say here, attention is a vital resource. Attention is the vital resource today, not information. Attention is in short supply, not information. We are drowning in information, but our attention is our competitive advantage. Our attention is in very short, very limited supply. So we need to withdraw it from wherever it is that it is currently dissipated, for example, in so-called news programs or mindless entertainment, and we need to redirect it with laser-like precision to the investigation, discovery, and application of the laws governing the mind and the laws governing life. So the COVID crisis is developing fully within known parameters. And the question becomes, how can I, who is operating right in the midst of this crisis, not simply adapt to it, not simply be resilient to it, but actually expand and thrive? And I know someone now hearing this is going through difficulty, through challenge, and I'm saying to you, never waste your trials in life. Learn lessons, evolve, strengthen yourself, and understand that your success begins with you, and it begins now in the present moment. So it is essential to take charge of your thinking, take charge of your actions in order to create the life that you want to experience. Otherwise, life will take charge of your thinking, life will take charge of your actions in order to teach you a lesson. And what is this lesson? That you must take charge of your thinking, and you must take charge of your own life and actions. So we really do need to liberate ourselves from the belief that's becoming more and more prevalent these days, that our success or even our survival is dependent on environmental conditions. And it is subject to major disruptions or black swan events like COVID-19. This is not the case. We have to take charge of our thinking, we have to take charge of our actions, and we need to be able to thrive and expand even in the midst of crisis. Because the future is psychological, and it is psychological because the present is also psychological. The conditions and the circumstances that we encounter in outside life are simply reflections of what is going on inside us. Now, I've been talking a lot about psychology and psychological thinking and psychological reality, so it's quite important, I think, to clarify that I explicitly do not refer to academic information. I'm not referring to the psychology of the textbook. I'm not referring to the psychology of the scientific journal article. I am referring to intuitive knowledge that is latent in every single human being. Psychological knowledge that is already there inside, pre-programmed in every single human being, and it is waiting to be discovered and applied with transformational effects for any life. So I'm not talking about ivory tower kind of academic information that needs to be intellectualized, abstract information. I am talking specifically about latent powers that wait to be discovered through their application, not through their memorization, as if you're going to write and attempt to pass an exam. That's the kind of psychology that I am referring to here today. And that brings me to the related question of psychology versus technology. And it's quite important to understand that the future is psychological. It is not technological. Because as I just said, the present is psychological and it is not technological. And I know that many of you out there listening today are students, so it's quite important for you to future-proof your career. We've seen with the COVID crisis a major failure of so-called artificial intelligence and predictive analytics. It's a major failure because the predictions of artificial intelligence and predictive analytics are obsolete at the very point of generation. As they are generated, they are obsolete because they have built-in obsoleteness. They are based on the unstated assumption that the past will keep repeating. And this assumption is, of course, wrong. This assumption is, of course, wrong, as we saw with the black swan event of COVID-19. Technology is a servant, it is not a master. So like it's serving us here today and bringing us together with excellent effects, I should say. So it is therefore inwards that we should turn the focus of our attention against the false promises of artificial so-called intelligence and the like. And that takes us back to square one. And what is square one? Know thyself. Know thyself, which is a maxim from 2,500 years ago. And this is self-knowledge. True self-knowledge is absolutely essential for long-term success, and it is the number one asset for conscious creativity. Now, most of us, unfortunately, tend to think that we already have self-knowledge, and we equate self-knowledge with the collection of memories and information about ourselves. So I like this and I don't like that, and I used to like this, but I don't like it anymore, and that is my favorite wine, and that is my favorite actress, and the collection of all these memories and information and preferences is myself, is self-knowledge. But this is not self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is something that is direct, spontaneous. It is not mediated by the mind. And these are these issues and many more are explained in my grand system of psychobionomy, which owes a lot to Indian and Vedic philosophy of mind, as I have absolutely no time to explain right now, but will certainly do so in the future. And I will explain how this grand system of psychobionomy, which is directed and aims at the achievement of self-knowledge, is basically underpinned by Indian Vedic philosophy of mind. So, mind over matter is one of the messages of the webinar today. Mind over matter. Mind over matter equals determination. Mind over matter equals determination. So it's either mind over COVID or COVID hanging over your mind. COVID and its effects hanging over your mind, like it's happening with millions of people today, right? What's going to happen to my livelihood? What's going to happen with my business? So this COVID disruption has gone to the core of their existence. But it is possible to come out of this, okay? Because COVID-19 will into life's background one way or another. Maybe they will find a vaccine, or maybe we'll just have to learn to live in this new normal, with the restrictions, with the masks and whatever it is, with the social distancing. We will learn to live with this. Or maybe, as I said, a vaccine is going to come onto the scene and partially or completely resolve the problem. So COVID will feed into life's background one way or another, but your thinking style will not. The way that you think, the way that you live your life, the way your stream of cognition will be with you. It will not fade into the background, and it will keep producing results for you. So it's really important that you actually take charge of this, and you are on top of your thinking style, and produce the results that you want to see, that you want to experience in your own life. So we've got to eliminate poverty thinking, eliminate sickness thinking, eliminate self-doubt, eliminate all these diseases of the mind. And one way that this can be done is through the application of the technologies that we are developing in my lab. So I was only able to touch on the surface of these topics because I know we are pressed for time, and it might be getting really, really late in some parts of the world. We are engaged in an effort of knowledge sharing in the lab, simply because the world needs it today more than ever. So now, with the help of many good friends and supporters worldwide, and directed by my very good wife, Lila, we are building a presence on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and a number of web pages that you can actually access from our main website. And you can see on this slide. So you can go and register or like us, or whatever it is that one does in these websites, and help us to help you and disseminate the true knowledge that can change people's lives. And with this, I know that we have promised you a short Q&A session. So I would like to close by thanking once again Basaveshwar College, the principal, coordinators, specifically Dr. Hanji, for organizing this event and giving me the opportunity to connect with you all. Dr. Hanji, over to you.
Yes, sir. That was a wonderful session, Doctor. Now, as we promised, to the participants, they can ask questions. We have some questions here. The first question is from Ms. Pooja Anand, who wants to know, the query is, why do you conceptualize EI as a trait, and does trait EI entail the idea of developing EI? So,
yes. Yeah, that is an excellent question. Of course, goes back to the scientific literature. Now, trait emotional intelligence is a very broad theory. It is not. I mean, some people see trait EI as a subset of the EI literature. So they see psychology, which has many different divisions like educational, occupational, biological, cognitive, individual differences. Within individual differences, you have personality, intelligence, attitudes. Within personality, you have emotional intelligence. Within emotional intelligence, you have ability EI and trait EI. That's not the right way of looking at it. Trait EI is a grand theory of personality. It spans across many different areas. And the question, so in fact, in one of my latest papers, in the last couple of years, I explained how ability EI can actually be seen as a small subset of trait emotional intelligence. So that's the first, that hopefully goes some way towards answering the first question. In relation to the second question, can it be developed? Absolutely is the question, the answer. Absolutely it can be developed, but it is not something that can be developed quickly in a rush, in a seminar, or as an afterthought. You really do need to apply yourself into changing your trait emotional intelligence, changing your personality, in fact, revolutionizing it. And revolutionizing it to an extent that you can actually create your own external life, because that's the final frontier, the final outcome is to actually create the external conditions, the external circumstances that you want to see in your life. And what I'm saying here today, through trait emotional intelligence theory, through psychobionomy, more significant, is that if you want to see this change in your external conditions, in your job, in your marriage, in your relationship, in your health, you really do need to start within, from your psychology. This is the main message today. So absolutely, you can develop and improve, optimize your trait emotional intelligence. You can actually develop, optimize, and improve your entire life, not just your trait EI or your psychology or your philosophy. You can really optimize and maximize your entire life, including, very significantly, external conditions and circumstances.
Thank you, sir. So there is another question by Vani Balal. Good evening, sir. She asks, how can we help students of all age groups to adapt to the changes that are happening now, especially to the school children?
So could you repeat that, Dr. Hanji?
So,
how can we help?
What she's asking is, she wants to know how we can help the students of all age groups adapt to the changes. Now, what the changes what are happening now?
Yes. Well, students are not really different from adolescents or adults. They're not, obviously, they're more vulnerable and they need more direction, but they need to learn, they need to be taught, which is something that we're not really doing in most educational systems, certainly not in the Western world. They need to know that they have to take charge of their own thinking. They have to take charge of their own destiny. That's not something that we really, we're very busy teaching them English and maths and history, but we're not really teaching them basic facts about life. So, some of the things that I mentioned today and some of the things that I am expanding on in our various websites and social media are some of the very things that need to be adapted and taught into children. It's the same ideas, you see. The children and the adults are not. In fact, the reason why we have to teach this to adults is because they were never taught this knowledge when they were young, when they were children. So the same message that I am giving to adults applies to children as well. So obviously, people who have the ability and the knowledge and the talent to communicate with children need to take these messages and adapt them for use with young children and adolescents. Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. That's very important, I think, for the children. Another question by Zed Chan. He says, thank you very much, Professor. Could you please enlighten us on on the relationship between psychobionomy, radix intelligence, trait EI, and personality?
Okay, well, so radix intelligence is another, fairly new development in my theories and systems. But generally speaking, psychobionomy is the grand system. Everything that I do is an aspect of psychobionomy, because psychobionomy is the grand system that can help any person, any individual take charge of their life. So you can understand the importance and the possibilities of this, because taking charge of your life means that you can actually create a life that you wanted to experience, create your life as you want it to be, irrespective of COVID, irrespective of the economic circumstances, irrespective of whether you are born in Greece or in India or in China or Brazil, or Denmark, irrespective of all these external circumstances, through the application of the system of psychobionomy and its principles and technologies, you can actually get to a point where you can create your own life. Now, many people need help in different areas. So some people might need particular help with handling their emotions, understanding their emotional world, conscious as well as subconscious. And that's where trait emotional intelligence theory comes in. Many people have difficulties with the perceptions, how they perceive themselves, how they understand the world. That's where radix intelligence comes in. And they have other theories as well that are designed to deal with specific difficulties and challenges that individuals, people face in particular areas, domains in their life. But all this is integrated within the grand system of psychobionomy. That is, the mother system. And everything else is an aspect of it. Thank you.
Okay, sir. There are many questions coming up, sir. There is another question by Ms. Ashwini. Is there any link between emotional intelligence, and neuroscience? If it is, and what are its effects?
Yes, and certainly, many have written about this, and I have written with colleagues in a paper in 2016. And if you actually go into our website, I should say, this is my main website, and you can download from there all our research papers. Going back 20 years, you can download and you can see all the information, research methods, statistical analysis, discussion, all is and free of charge as well. So there's a paper in 2016 where we review the latest research relating to trait EI, and there is a section on biological, psychological effects. Generally speaking, however, and this is one major differentiation between the trait emotional intelligence model and Goleman's model of emotional intelligence, a major dimension differentiating these two approaches, is that trait EI is an approach that is psychological, mental. If you see the Goleman's approach to emotional intelligence is very neurobiological. In other words, that emotions are somehow rooted in the brain. And if you read the book, you'll see all the circuits and brain structures and functions that affect emotion. Trait emotional intelligence is completely different to that, because trait EI is a psychological theory, and it actually says and argues that your emotions and the way you experience emotion and handle emotion is to do with things that are happening in your mind, in the way that you perceive life, in the way that you perceive yourself, in the way that you perceive others. So it's not biologically rooted, it's psychologically rooted, and this is a major differentiation between the trait EI model and Goleman's model of EI. Thank you.
Okay. Sir, there is there are a lot of questions. How many questions we can take, sir?
I can take a few more. I don't know. We can go for another, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. I'm happy to give to that. Okay. I've got enough battery here, I think. So, yes.
Okay. So, we have another question by Aisha Firdaus. So, can you please share any tips to control or change our emotions or emotional detachment? So that's what she wants to know.
Yes, first of all, it's quite important that we understand that we need to have this control over our emotions. That is the first step, the understanding that we need to take charge, the understanding and the need to take charge. That is important. Not everybody has that. A lot of people are completely resigned to the way life unfolds, and they're just beaten up by life. So understanding that it is possible and wanting to do it is the first step. Then you really need to start working with yourself and find out what are the triggers of your emotional reactions, what are the triggers of the difficulties and challenges that you are experiencing, and what is the result, the consequences and antecedents of these difficulties. So you need to start going inside and analyzing your own situation. And again, I've given examples of this in some of my papers. If you check the psychobionomy paper from 2019, I give an example of how we can actually do this analysis, this self-analysis that allows us to get to the cause of our emotional dysfunction and resolve it. So there's not a tip per se, other than to say that you have to work with your own psychology. That's very important, you see, because some people just are lying flat and completely helpless in terms of what life serves them, and they just sit there and think. Other people think that it is beyond their control. What can you do? They're trying, but they think this is bigger than me. That's another wrong cognition, that whatever it is that I'm facing is bigger than me. That is always a falsehood. You are bigger than anything that comes and hits you, much, much bigger. So you've got to understand your own potential. You've got to understand your own possibilities that are there for you to be explored and exploited. So never give up. You've got to go inside, find your difficulties and resolve them. And always know that you are much, much bigger than anything that life can hit you with. Whatever life hits you with is something that you have actually created. You have created it in order to overcome it and understand the own power that's lying there inside you. Thank you.
That's nice, sir. That's very encouraging. Sir, next question is by Bogdan Zadorsky. Excellent, he says, excellent presentation. What do you think is the role of trait EI and testing for the self-improvement? Do you believe that retest would lead to dynamically changing results? That is by Bogdan Zadorsky from Montreal. Yeah.
Yes, again, that's, some of the questions require a lot of exposition, but retest, of course, one way of doing it, and finding out if there are specific changes in your profile as a result of some kind of intervention that you have actually engaged in. So a lot of people will take the TQ, for example, find out where they stand for the time being, what the profile is right now, and then they will engage in some kind of intervention, trying to change themselves, optimize the profile, and later on down the line, they will retake the instrument and they will find what these changes are. And this can be a very informative process. So yes, retest, absolutely. It can be very helpful. And I think there was another part of this question which I might have missed.
He says,
well, we can move to the next one, Dr. Hanji. Try and take as many as we can.
We have a question from Chandrasekhar K. Dr. Chandrasekhar K. He asks whether how meditation will help us to, control our emotions.
It's absolutely essential. And of course, we don't have time to go into any, but I'm writing on meditation right now because, of course, the first thing that I needed to do was present the theoretical principles of psychobionomy, which has been very, very challenging. And I've been working on this for many, many years. But the next thing, which is obviously important, absolutely crucial, is the practical aspect. How do you apply it? And meditation is the number one tool. Yeah, I really don't think you can go through life without meditation, frankly. If from this meeting today, from this webinar, if you were to take one thing with you, if you are to remember one thing, this is going to practice your meditation. Yeah, meditation is the gateway to all these powers that lay latent inside. Through meditation, you are going to find inside you tremendous power, tremendous possibility. And meditation is the key. If you take one thing from this webinar, is establish a daily meditation practice and be faithful to it. Be faithful to your meditation. So it's indispensable. That's an excellent question. I'm very happy that I was able to discuss meditation in the webinar today.
We have one more question. Last question. We're going to take it from last slide. External conditions seems to be by definition external. Now, what do you mean by transforming our inner self? External conditions will also change, presumably towards a desired end. That's the question.
Again, a very good question. What appears to be external is not really external. It's simply a projection of your own mind. So, there's no internal and external. So I'm just using this as a concession to communicating. But there's no internal and external. What we perceive as external conditions, external circumstances, are simply projections of our own mind. There is a integration and oneness of mind. So basically what we appear to be experiencing in the outside world through our senses is simply a projection of our own mind. And when we understand that, then we also understand the possibilities of creating a reality exactly as we want to experience it. The reason why we are able to do that is because we can change our thinking style, we can change our perceptions and the perceptions of life, and these changes, when they happen deep inside us, then are reflected outside. But really, this reflection into the external world is not really that. It's, simply a way of experiencing your own self. There's no internal and external in the final analysis. What you're perceiving as external is simply an extension of your own mind. And by changing your own mind, you can, of course, cause changes to this extension. So,
okay, sir.
I think that's a very powerful message. And this,
Absolutely.
we can write it. We can wrap it up.
Yes, of course. So I'm really sorry for other participants whose questions were still not answered, but I think most of them have been answered, and they were all satisfactorily answered, I hope. And it was a wonderful, eye-opening QA session, sir, what I have been through. And it was really interesting to know about psychobionomy, and it was also a privilege to hear about trait emotional intelligence by yourself, directly from yourself. Yeah. So we are on the fag end of this. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, would like to thank you for all the organization, which has been absolutely tremendous. It's really difficult to organize all this technologically in so many different countries and so many different points of contact. So I'm really grateful for giving me this opportunity. The organization has been absolutely magnificent, and I'm really grateful to you. And I hope that all the listeners found it useful. So thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to propose a vote of thanks. So firstly, I'd like to thank Professor Dr. K.V. Patrice for sparing his time with us and taking interest in organizing this webinar jointly with us. And we have been working on this webinar for past 2 months because we got only appointment in the second half of July. So I was just waiting for the dates, and today we are here. We listened to him, and also I'd like to thank London Psychometric Lab. I think participants should know that where to reach him. That is on London Psychometric Lab, which is the website, official website, where you can reach to Dr. Patrice, and also you can download his research work there. And thank you, sir. And I also thank the management of BVV Sangha for encouraging us to carry out this webinar, and also our principal, Dr. S.S. Engineering, for encouraging and supporting us to do this, and all my faculty colleagues, students who helped us, and all the people who are directly and indirectly involved in this webinar. And most importantly, I thank the Center of Attraction, all the participants from all countries. Thank you very much for being with us here and taking benefit of this webinar. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.